What is going on? It's Peter Moriarty here. Thank you so much for joining. If you're on the live, make sure you say hello. Let me know where you are watching from. If you're watching the replay, then yeah, say hello on the comments as well. You can drop a comment down below. Always love to know where our customers are coming from. I am based right here on the Gold Coast right now in Australia, though I have been traveling around quite a lot. If you've been watching any of my videos, you would have seen I've been in various hotel rooms and different Airbnbs all over the world, enjoying travel freedom. And if you're a business owner and you're wanting to build a business that scales and is more successful with or without you running the operations of the business, well, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Got heaps of videos on how you can implement technology strategy into your business to make things run well. So this session is me answering your Q&A. Specifically, this is related to questions about Google Workspace and about technology systems inside your business. So if you're interested in me answering a question live for you, you can head along to ask.itgenius.com. So I'll drop that in a browser for you so you can see what it looks like, ask.itgenius.com. And what that does is that actually brings you up to this little page here where you can put in a live question. And those live questions can be voted on. You can upvote the ones that you like that you want me to answer. And every now and again, I jump on and I do a live like this and I answer those questions. So if you're new around here, our business is IT Genius. We help businesses all over the world with Google Workspace and other small business technology tools. And we help businesses systemize, organize, and scale. And so we're really about helping you to get your technology strategy correct. And that means that you'll be able to grow a more successful business. Okay, now excuse me for 1 second because it's a little bit hot in here. So I'm going to whip this jumper off before we get started. It's probably going to make my life a little bit easier. 1 second here. I don't think you want to see me take my my shirt off, so I'll do that with that off. All right, we are ready to rock and roll. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Let me open up my questions here. Okie dokie. So first question here is from Phil. Would love your thoughts on a content machine. I'm currently working on this for an industrial design firm and making some amazing products. My exact struggle is getting the insights out of my team's heads in a simple way. That's a great question. And building content with your team is an important part of your marketing. And what I mean by that is getting the intellectual property and the knowledge out of your team's heads and getting that down in a place where you can turn that into content to then share it with your customers. We are now in the age of content. And what that means is that many customers want to interact with your business, whether that be on LinkedIn, whether that be on Facebook, or on Instagram or on TikTok. They want content. They don't just want a website that they have to browse through. They actually want to interact with humans and interact with your brand online. So how do you do that? How do you actually get things out of people's minds and into an ideas list? Well, I actually created a video on this recently. It's on my secondary channel, which is called Moriarty Uncut. So if you head along to YouTube, and if you search for, let me open that up here. If you search for Moriarty Uncut, and on my channel here, I actually created a video recently with my content production process inside Asana. So if you search that channel for Asana, here we go. There's a couple of shorts there, but I've got a longer one here, my content production process. And that really shows the production side of things with Asana. So I'd recommend you go and check out that video. And I may as well drop that in the, let me grab the link and I'll drop that into the live for you guys. Oh, thanks so much for joining those who are on the live. Welcome, great to have you here. But if you're interested in going a little bit more in depth into that, I'll give you a very quick demo of what my Asana board looks like. So we use Asana for pretty much everything in our business. It's one of our favorite small business tech tools. It's really great for managing tasks and projects collaboratively with your team. Now, you could use something like Google Tasks if you just had 1 or 2 or 3 people inside your business. It's quite a simplistic system. It doesn't really do project management, but it's pretty good for task management if you're just managing a couple of people within a team. But when you start doing projects or tasks that are related to each other, or maybe you're in a situation where you've got a project that needs to be delivered over time and it's got different stages in that project, you really want to move to a project management system. And so we use Asana. There's also Trello, Monday.com, plenty of other options out there on the market that you might want to investigate. But what many of these task management systems help you to do is to create workflows. And if you can create a board with a number of tasks in different, we call them buckets, but you would call them Kanban boards, if strictly speaking, you can actually use those to create workflows inside your business. So I'll give you a couple of examples of what that looks like for our content team inside our business. And so this is my business Asana here. And on this content board, I've got lots of different columns. So all of our raw content ideas sit up here in the raw content ideas box. And then as an idea is taken into development, it will be moved to development and then review. There's a finalized review. And then when something's being produced, it'll show up in production here. Now you can see, obviously today I'm working on our live and presenting this. This actually is my task for today. Within the task, it'll probably have the description of the YouTube video. Yep, you can see that there. You can see the link has been pasted there. Basically everything my content team need to do to set that up on YouTube, it's all ready to rock and roll, all sitting there for us, which is great. Once I've got it recorded, I remove it to the recorded bin, and from there it goes over to the production board. And the production board has its own set of stages. The production board has new videos as they come in, videos in production that sit with the individual producers, our creative team doing our video editing. We then have a content review with our SEO expert who is responsible for making sure that we're choosing good titles and good thumbnails. And then you can see there's a couple of reviews from management team, and then final review goes through to me before everything gets published on the channel. We've got our publishing box for videos that are in the process of being published, and then once they're complete, they move over to the complete column. So you can see here effectively what we've done is we've created a production line, both for taking an idea from a raw idea to developing it, to then getting it approved and ready to be recorded, and then finally to actually being recorded and produced. And then once it's been produced, it's got to be edited and then published. And so we've got another set of steps for editing and publishing. Now, you could do this for pretty much any process in your business where you have a recurring process that needs to happen on a repeated basis. So you might use a tool like this for something like a customer relationship management system where you're moving customers through a sales process. Now, there's dedicated apps for that, but in the absence of any other app, you could use something like Asana for that. If you've got maybe a customer project that's being delivered, you might want to set up a list of tasks. And in that list of tasks, you might want to have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of the project with the appropriate subtasks being assigned to somebody in your business who will help you to do the actual implementation. And what a tool like Asana lets you do is basically see everything that's going on in the business. So you're not tapping on the shoulder of your staff and asking them, have you done that yet? Have you done that yet? Have you done that yet? Because as a business grows and scales, you run out of the number of people that you can manage if you're a business owner or if you're a team leader. And so what these tools do is they allow us to keep on track with what my responsibilities are for my work and what my team's responsibilities are for their work as well. Very useful and very important. Hope that was useful to the person who asked that question. Okay, cool. I'll tick that one off. Bruce asks, every once in a while, we find a leftover person outside our company whom we previously gave access to a specific Google Drive folder. How can we check or search for all people who have access to your Google Workspace, Drive, and calendars? There is, unfortunately, to my knowledge, no easy way of being able to search for all externally shared files. There is a report inside your Google Workspace admin panel, and that will show you what the number of files are that are shared externally outside your business. However, unfortunately, there's no simple way within Google Workspace itself to say, show me a list of everything that's shared with somebody external. However, my recommendation with file sharing is to actually be quite careful about what files are shared with which person. Now, I have an extended video on how to set up your Google permissions correctly and how to apply those into Google Drive And so that's a full tutorial. It's 30 minutes long, teaching you exactly how you should do your Google permissions. If you're interested in that, I'll have my team drop a link to that down below. But otherwise, you can search for it on the IT Genius channel. But what I do want to show you is how we do permissions inside IT Genius, because this is really the way that we lock down files and ensure that no one who shouldn't have access to anything is accessing the wrong file. So we obviously use shared drives, and shared drives is how we keep things nicely locked down inside our business. I may even switch over, I think, to my business account here. It's probably going to make my life a little bit easier. Okay, so here I am inside my shared drives, and inside my shared drives, for example, if I want to share a training drive which has training files, I may choose in the shared drive settings to lock down who has access to any of those sub-files. Oh, of course, okay, I think that's the wrong company. Let's go down to IT Genius. Here we go, team training, okay. So inside my shared drives, I've actually unticked this box to disallow people outside of IT Genius from accessing any files. And what that does is it just automatically locks down anything that's stored inside that folder so that anyone who's outside the company no longer has access to it. Also, you can choose whether or not you want someone who has the ability to manage content inside that folder, share it outside the company or not. So you can see here that we've also unticked for the ability for content managers to share folders. And what that means is you lock down the ability for individual folders to be shared outside of a shared drive. Now, you may think, Pete, is that like a little bit over the top, stopping people from sharing things? Don't we want to foster a collaborative environment inside our business? And the most important thing here to remember is that your role is to protect your intellectual property inside your company. And if you set up a correct organizational design when you structure your permissions in your teams and the way that you set up your different folders, well, it shouldn't actually be a hindrance to any of your team to be able to get their work done. And you should be able to strike the balance of making sure that your business data is properly protected. Okay, so that's one way that you can manage making sure that things are locked down inside your business. All right, let's move back to the question. Now, if I can just find that. Cool. Let's mark that one. Done. Okay. So Graham asks, what are my thoughts on Confluence versus Google Sites as a company knowledge base and wiki? That's a great question. If you're considering using something like Confluence or any other of the many apps for an intranet inside your business, I've got some thoughts. If you're already a subscriber to Google Workspace, you've got a fantastic tool called Google Sites, which can be used to create an intranet website which is private just to you and your team. Now, we use this to store onboarding guides, training, how-tos, and pretty much everything to do with how to run our business. So when we have a new staff member join the business, they very quickly get access to everything they need to know how to do their job. But why would you consider using something external or outside the business? Now, most of our audience are small business owners, and so I'm typically speaking about the challenges that small business owners face when we educate on this channel. And if you are a small business owner, you probably are going to be conscious around how much you're paying per subscription app that you have. And I'm a bit of a fan of keeping everything as Google as possible to reduce the number of additional apps that you have to pay for to run your business. Now, there are advantages of using third-party applications outside of the Google ecosystem, like you may choose to use Zoom for your video conferencing, you may choose to use Slack for your chat messages, you might even choose to run some copies of Microsoft Office for some of your document processing. But my overall opinion is, as much as possible, try and do things the Google way. And even if you miss out on one or two features, well, you still get to save a lot on costs, you reduce your complexity, and it allows your team to just focus on getting their work done. Now, when it comes to something like creating a wiki or creating an intranet for your company, Google Sites is pretty darn limited. I'm a strong believer that you don't need Slack, you can absolutely use Google Chat for everything. You probably don't need Zoom, you can use Google Meet for everything. But when it comes to building an intranet, I'm a little bit more on the fence. There are a lot of features included in apps like Confluence or other apps that are purpose-built for intranets that give you much more than what Google Sites does. The ability to tag, link between pages automatically, even have automatic searches based on AI and machine learning, bringing up documents to the surface when you're using these different tools can make your documentation a little bit easier for your team. So I'd say, okay, I'm a bit on the fence about this one. If you have a large team with more than 10 employees, you might want to consider something a bit more sophisticated than Google's offering. But I know for us personally, we're able to get a lot done inside of Google Sites, and we've got over 60 employees across our group of companies, all working in the Google Sites ecosystem quite happily. So there's my thoughts on using Confluence versus Google Sites for your intranet. Let me know what you think in the comments down below this. I'd love to know what success you've had building out your own intranet. All right. Okay. All right. I've got some messages coming through saying that my lighting is super harsh. So I'm going to go and update that. Bear with me for just one moment. There we go, fixing all the tech issues today. Okay, let's mark that question as solved. Graham has said, Chrome browser cloud management gives IT powerful management capabilities in the cloud at no additional cost. Is this a Google service or benefit, or even necessary for Google Workspace admins? Great question, Graham. I think I know which Graham this is as well. Serial commenter and visitor to the channel. So Google gives you built-in Chrome management tools right inside of Google Workspace for free. They only let you manage the basics for free, but they do have some pretty interesting and sophisticated tools there, which are very useful for small business owners. Now, if you're using a Google admin account and you have your users connecting to Google Chrome browsers, it doesn't matter what computer they're using, but if they're signed into Google Chrome, they can actually have policies applied to their Google Chrome browser. So that might be on a Mac, on a Windows machine, or even on a Chromebook or Chromebox. And you may decide to create a policy that, for example, sets the homepage on each person's browser. Maybe you decide to create a policy that will set a certain number of bookmarks for each one of your staff members. Maybe you create a policy that says that Safe Search has to be enabled for everyone's machine. And as soon as somebody signs in to Google Chrome using their business account, automatically any of the policies that you've applied to your business workspace account will be applied to their Chrome browser. Now, if you want to go a step further, there is also device management capabilities. So if you're using the enterprise version of Google Workspace, there are a number of policies that apply to mobile phones, which you can actually use to manage your devices, being iOS devices or Android devices. If you have Chrome devices, so that would be a Chromebook or a Chromebox, you can purchase a device license and actually manage some of the hardware settings and operating system settings on Chrome-based operating system devices. Now, for free, you get the basic policies in Google Chrome. And are they worthwhile using? I say absolutely yes. Some of the ones that we love to do are to create a common set of bookmarks for a whole team, or to set things like the homepage to the company intranet. That'd be a great way of making sure that your team stay connected. I also do things inside the administrator panel, like setting a basic policy that any mobile device that connects to your organization must have a passcode enabled. And these are all available for free, just out of the box with Google Workspace. If you're interested in locking down more of the device level settings, you either need to purchase an enterprise plan for Google Workspace or device management licenses for Chrome devices. If you're interested in learning more about those, let me know down in the comments what questions you have, and I'll see if I can answer those in an upcoming video. Great question though. Okay, let's mark that one off. Okay, we have a question from DJ Extraordinaire. Every time I email one of my friends from my iCloud account, it keeps sending from my Gmail account. Why is this happening? I would like my iCloud email to be sent directly from my iCloud account. Great question. I'm going to assume that this person is using Apple Mail. And when you're using Apple Mail, you have a choice of sending between different email addresses that are connected to your computer. I'm also going to assume they have multiple email addresses connected inside Apple Mail, being both their iCloud account and also their Gmail account. And for whatever reason, when they go to send an email, it's choosing the wrong one. Now, I can't give you troubleshooting help without actually seeing that, but I think this is an important moment for me to raise why I would strongly recommend you use Gmail in the browser rather than working with Apple Mail on the desktop. You see, using Gmail in the browser gives you the power of everything Google. You've got as many emails as you want to store online, and you're able to search through every single one of those emails in a moment. Now, if I open up my inbox, I can go back to about 15 years worth of email. And within that inbox, I can search for just about anything, and it's going to immediately bring those emails up. Let's go and search for something from a long time ago, like maybe emails from the year 2010. And you can see that immediately it has brought up emails all the way back to a very, very long time. Now, this is an interesting email title. It says, "The best positions in bed." Let's open that up and have a look. Oh, look at that. Some cute little puppies. That's a nice one. That could have been dangerous, couldn't it? The key thing I love about Gmail is because it's in the cloud, all the heavy lifting is being done by Google's supercomputers. And that means that if you're on your mobile device or if you're on a computer, as long as you're accessing Gmail in the browser or via the Gmail app on your phone, you've got access to all the power of Google doing the hard work instead of your device. When you search in Apple Mail, sometimes it will only bring in the last 30 days worth of email. Or if you're on a desktop computer and you've got years and years worth of data, that search indexing can start to run slowly. Most business owners will keep pretty much every email they've ever received because we need to make sure that we're protected from lawsuits, or we might have a customer who emails us from 5 years ago and we want to know what the history is with that customer. But what ends up happening is if you're storing all of your local emails on your local device, well, unfortunately, you do risk losing them if anything ever happens to your computer, but the performance starts to slow down when you have a very large mailbox. So my strong recommendation is to have everything based in the browser using Gmail Online because you're going to get a much better experience. Not to mention, you get access to all of Google's AI and machine learning tools online, like auto compose, suggested replies. You even get the ability to automatically have follow-ups prompting you inside your inbox if you've sent someone an email and they haven't replied to you within a couple of days. All of these fancy AI features are built into Gmail Online, and they don't quite work if you're connecting to Outlook or to Mac Mail. Now, if you're interested in connecting to something like an iCloud account, well, you can even forward your iCloud emails into a Gmail or a Google Workspace business account, and you can send from your iCloud emails as well. Once you configure the email address in your settings inside of Gmail, you can send and receive to multiple addresses. And when you go to send your email, it's just a matter of choosing, do you want to send it from your Google account, or would you like to send it from your secondary third-party email account, perhaps iCloud? If you haven't already made the switch to Gmail, it's a good idea to go all in on Google, work in the browser, and I promise you'll have the best time. And if you're worried about accessing your emails offline, Google even has a feature for that as well. You can now switch on offline access inside your settings of Gmail, and you can get access to up to 90 days of your emails offline for any time that you need to do work without an internet connection. Pretty handy. All right, let's have a look at our next question. Okay. Anonymous asks, would you recommend using subfolders for subdivisions within departments? For example, sales, phone setters, direct message, phone sales. Would that be one folder sales with subfolders for phone setters, or would they all be in separate folders? Thank you, love your channel. Thank you very much, Anonymous. And I'm just going to double check. My chats here. Oh, hello. Salome, thank you for joining from Kenya. Amazing. 6:30. That's commitment. Ali, thank you so much for joining. #1 channel fan, always here on the lives. Great to have you here, Ali. Okay. Here's my recommendation on folders. I think if you're a small business owner, you want to try and keep things as simple as possible. Sometimes in the desire to keep things organized, small business owners can go a little overzealous and over technical their way into different design. And what I mean by that is you may create like 13 or 15 or 20 different folders and try and have everyone perfectly organize everything into those. My recommendation is that you set a simple business structure and you allow your team to work within that simple business structure, because the reality is that not everyone is going to be as tidy as you. And even if you design the perfect system, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to follow it. Now, if you're a small business, let's say you've got less than 20 employees, you probably want to keep a simple folder structure. And I would say less than 10 overall areas of business in their own separate folders. If you've got a larger organization, 50, 100, or a couple of thousand employees, well, then you might look to create some more sophisticated folder structures. But keep in mind that the most important thing that folders are used for is security permissions. And so you want to have a corresponding security group for each one of your folders. Now, I've got a great video on that, on how to create your ideal Google folder structure on the channel. Go ahead and check that out. What that will show you is how to set up group-based permissions. And with your group-based permissions, then apply them to folders. And what I like about that is the ability to have each one of your areas of business in a simple folder. Now, how many subfolders should you create? Well, the general rule is that you shouldn't really create more than about 5 or 6 subfolders once you've actually created a folder tree, because Google's pretty damn efficient at being able to search, and especially online, the search feature works really great. And so my recommendation is try and limit the amount of folders that you have unless you really have a reason to split up the folders and create additional levels of depth. As much as possible, try and reduce the folders by just creating simple, logical areas of business and have everyone following suit from there. Great question. All right. Rich asks, what would you recommend be the best practice to move a founder's original email to a general team email address inside Google Workspace? Now the company has grown, so the original founder's email essentially is the entire company's info at or team at bucket. I think that's a great question. Being a founder who's mostly exited the operations of IT Genius, I have a lived experience of this in that people may still email me from time to time, but the emails that come to me should really be handled by the team. Because if I'm doing a capital raise or I'm working on something to do with strategy outside of the business, I'm either going to use a personal email address that's more attached to my name, and my customers don't really have a reason to email me directly unless they're sharing feedback that I then pass on to the CEO. For the most part, my team are handling everything to do with the business. Now, it took me a long time to train my customers not to email me directly anymore and instead to email our company email address, which is help@itgenius.com. And that's now been successful, but it took me a long time for our customers to stop emailing me. And every now and again, I still get a direct email from a customer expecting that I'm going to pick up the phone and help them to fix something with their computer. Maybe their printer's not working and they think, hey, Pete can fix that, and they send me an email. Unfortunately, we have 25,000 customers, so I'm no longer the one who can answer the call and get that sorted out for them, but we've got an amazing team who are ready to take that call. Now, what I end up doing is I forward that email into my team. But it would certainly be a strategy to have my email address, peter@itgenius.com, set as an alias of our shared mailbox, help@itgenius.com. Now, rather than renaming my mailbox or merging all of my historical data into that mailbox, I think the smartest thing to do would be for me to choose a new email address and have the old email address just set as an alias for the new shared mailbox. I think that would be the best recommended action because I don't really want to share all of the company history from my own personal mailbox with everybody else who needs to access the shared team mailbox. But I may choose to have emails that used to go to me go to the team instead. That's a good idea. All right, let's go to our next one. David asks, I'm one of those users that set up my family domain using the free Google Apps many years ago, and I have 10 family members that use it for just Gmail and photo storage. Is there any way to get Google to re-enable the old storage options of my legacy Workspace account? Thanks, David. That's, yeah, absolutely a challenge there. And so unfortunately, Google have changed the storage options available for legacy accounts. Google have completely re-engineered and re-architected the way that they are selling storage. And what that means is that unfortunately, the buy-as-you-go storage options are no longer available for old legacy accounts. At this time, I do not know of a way to reactivate them. And unfortunately, the way that Google have gone in transitioning pretty much all of those free accounts into paid accounts over the years means that effectively there isn't really much of an option to do anything with old free accounts. Now, here's some thoughts on keeping one of those old accounts around. Even though you do have 10 accounts that you're using, and if you were to consider switching them to a business account, you're going to be up for a couple of $100 a month in paying for business accounts. A little birdie told me once upon a time that those legacy accounts actually run on different infrastructure to the main commercial Google Workspace accounts. Now, I don't know if that's still true or not because that was a long time ago, but in the past, we had problems from time to time where data could potentially be lost on a free account. And once that data was lost, calling Google support meant that they were not going to give you any help because you were on a legacy account. And worse than that, even paying to upgrade meant that because the infrastructure was different, you wouldn't get support that would be able to retrieve the old files because they were on the old unsupported infrastructure. Now, I don't know how any of that, how much of all of that is true anymore. And I don't really care to sell you 10 licenses on your account. It's not going to pay for my Ferrari. But what I would say is that I like having the safety of paying for my family Google Workspace account because that means that I can always call support. I always have the ability to get the service that a paying customer should get should there ever be anything that goes wrong with my account. So my recommendation there is that yes, it sucks that you can't get access to additional storage plans for your account right now, but I would strongly consider switching to a paid commercial business account, even if it's a business starter account. And what that will give you is at least the basic options of being able to add some more storage to your account. And hopefully that will meet your family's needs for Google Workspace. Good luck with that one. Okay, another great question. All right. Other than Google Takeout, this is anonymous. Anonymous asks, other than Google Takeout, is there another way to backup and migrate user offboarded data? That's a great question. There's actually 3 ways to offboard data for a user that is in the process of leaving your business. Now, we've created a number of videos on our offboarding process. So if you search for offboarding, we'll give you some tips on how to offboard your staff. But effectively on their last day, you want to immediately suspend the account so they no longer have access on any of their devices. And you can even, if you want to go an extra mile, click a button to sign them out of any active devices. Now, once you've done that, it's time to do something with their data. And you've got a few different options in the Google world. Yes, you can use Google Takeout, but I found the process to be pretty slow and it can be a little bit unreliable when it actually comes time to download the data. The other challenge with Google Takeout is you're getting a full dump of the whole account. And if you're running a business, you might not need every single piece of data like that, like all of the web history and every single photo sitting inside of Google Photos. What most business owners are interested in retaining is emails, calendar data, and any files that have been created from that person. And so what we do is there's actually 2 ways of migrating data inside the business. Now you can use the Google Workspace admin migration tool. And the migration tool actually gives you the ability to migrate data from one mailbox across to another. With that, excuse me, when you use the built-in Google tool, it will give you a status update on that data being migrated. Although I do caution and warn you that from time to time we found it to be a little bit buggy and it is sometimes slow. Now, one of the tools that we use is a third-party solution. We license it directly to our business. And so if you're a concierge customer of ours, we will actually do an automatic migration for you using third-party tools. Now, these professional third-party tools allow us to move the data cloud to cloud in the background without you having to do anything on your end. And what that lets you do is create a full copy of an account. And our recommendation is to move that into a centralized archive account inside your business. Now, I know there's a few technical things going on there, but just a reminder, there's 3 different ways of doing it. Number 1 is Google Takeout. Number 2 is using Google's built-in tools. And number 3 is using third-party solutions. Now, here's where we recommend you place all of the data because this is something that most business owners don't yet know about. We recommend you place the data into an archive account. And that archive account sits inside your Google Administrator panel. Let me show you what that looks like. So go ahead and open up our admin panel here, admin.google.com. It's going to ask me to log in again. Looks like my LastPass is going a bit slow today. Okay, so I'm going to open up my users. And inside my users, you'll see we have a user called IT Genius Archive. Now, this IT Genius Archive user has, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see properly. Where are they? Now, this IT Genius Archive user has all of the archive data from all the users that have left our company. And our recommendation is that you create that one bucket of data and you place all of the staff that have left your company into that bucket. So you just run the migration tool, place all their data in there, their files and their emails. And the other cool thing that you can do is if they have an alias, you could even move the alias across and into that archive if you want, and even set a custom out-of-office response that says something along the lines of, this staff member is no longer with our company, rather than your customers just receiving an email bounce when you inevitably delete the user that's left your business. So that's our recommendation for offboarding staff. I hope that's useful. Let me know what you think of that one down in the comments. All right. I'm going to go to some of the most recent questions and just see what's come through. Okay, here's one from Anonymous. I have a personal domain that I plan to switch to a Google Workspace account. I have a business workspace on the basic plan used only for email. Once I create the new workspace account, can I move the business email domain over instead of having a separate workspace account? Great question. If you have a domain name and you create a Google Workspace account with that domain name, you're going to have one Google Workspace account connected to each domain that you provision. Now, if you want two domains to live under one account, that works totally fine, but you need to add the second domain as an add-on domain to your existing Google Workspace account. Now, there's some caution with this. If you own a business and you're also planning on using one Google Workspace account for your personal use, for all of your personal data, you probably don't want to have both of those connected in the same Google Workspace account, because if you've got a business with other business partners, or it's a business that you maybe want to be able to sell one day, well then it would make more sense for you to actually have those two completely separate. So my recommendation would be, if you've got a business that is going to have other partners or is going to grow and scale, you keep it separate from a personal workspace account. But let's say, for example, you have just one account and maybe you want to, I don't know, register a domain for a personal project that's not really a serious business, but has an additional domain name. Well, then in that case, you might want to add an extra domain name into your business account. So what do extra domain names look like? Well, if you go into your admin panel, you head along to admin.google.com. Inside there, you will go to your account and then your domains. And inside domains, it'll show you a list of the different domains that you've got managed in your account. You can see here our primary domain, itgenius.com, lives there, but we also have a number of additional domains which are added as aliases for our company. And what an alias domain means is that it's an additional domain that will work for all of the email addresses inside our business. So you can see .com.au, what we used to use, and we also have itgenius.asia in there as well. All the domains for our account, all nice and easy to access for our team. All right, let's mark that one done. Okay. So this looks like a Google Meet question. If no one has done a recording, in that case, is there any way to find a recording from the meeting link? Unfortunately, no. That's a really easy question. If no one hit record in the meeting, there is no recording. Sorry. Let's mark that one off. Okay. This question is from Anonymous. Why would I choose Asana over Monday, Trello, ClickUp, or Airtable for very small creative teams? Asana seems more for large teams. Yeah, that's a great question. And Asana is certainly a very, very powerful application, particularly as a business grows and you have larger and larger teams. I would say if you're a small business and you only have less than 5 people, you could probably get away with using any other kind of app that has a great collaboration feature with the ability to assign tasks to your colleagues. Something like Monday or Trello or ClickUp or Airtable is going to work just fine. Notion is another popular one that a lot of small teams use for a mix between tasks and also a wiki as well. Now, the only challenge with choosing a tool that's not really going to go the distance as you scale is exactly that. As your business grows, you may find that you start to reach the limits of a tool as you become more and more successful. Now, if you are very serious about your business not growing and you plan to keep it small and boutique, that's totally fine to use a different app that would work better for small teams. But for most business owners that I know, they really want to be able to build a business that will one day run without them, or at least give them the ability to have some time freedom. And for a business to give you time freedom, you typically need at least 10 employees. And my idea of the golden rule is usually around 20 people. Once you get a business to that stage, what it means is that you can actually step back and have some operations staff employed to do most of the running of the business. And it allows you to stick with the ability to just manage vision and culture and let the team do most of the execution. Now, what are you going to need for that? Well, you're going to need effective task and project management. And my recommendation is, rather than start with a small app and then have to change it later, well, learn how to think how a scalable company thinks and just go with the best in breed from the start. Now, we are a global partner for Asana, and so we do have a small vested interest in more businesses using Asana. We've put it into at least 500 organizations all over the world, and we're big fans of the app. But I don't make any money if you sign up for the free plan. And the free plan works fine for up to 15 people inside your business. And that's actually one of the reasons why I recommend it to small business owners, because it's easy to get started with. And yes, it's a bit more complex than some of the simpler tools, but it's free and it's really hard to beat free. And it's there ready for you as you grow and scale your business to take advantage of some of the paid features as you need to add more and more. Remember that most software products want to get you hooked by entering your data into them. And especially task management systems make it pretty much impossible to pull out your data in a format that could be imported into any other business tool. And what that means is you end up with half of your business strategy and your business execution stuck in an old system when it comes time for the business to grow up and scale up and move to a new one. And so my recommendation is to always make long-term decisions with your technology. Think, what will I need in 5 years? What might I need in 10 years? And get ready to invest in setting up great systems now that will help you as the business grows and scales. Very important. Great question. Okay, let me see here. All right, well, this is an easy one. Your organization's Google Workspace account has been suspended. Please contact your administrator to reactivate. I've got the above error and I need help getting it resolved. If your Google account has been suspended right now, really the only way to get access to it again is using a DNS method to basically break back into your account. Now, this is, I'm assuming that someone has forgotten the administrator password or for some other reason been locked out. You can access Google support. However, they tend to want to have a code given to them to verify that you're actually the owner of a Workspace account. And if you can't get into your account, then it can give you some trouble to actually get access to support from Google. Things can become a little bit difficult. Now, if you want to avoid this in the future, my recommendation is to work with a partner like IT Genius. What we will be able to do is, if you are ever, for whatever reason, locked out of your account, you can actually have our team help you to get back into the account via the back end, which is very, very nice little feature where our customers have got stuck from time to time. And you might be thinking, well, you know, I'm not going to forget my administrator password. I'll never get locked out of my account. But let me tell you, it happens more often than you would expect. Here's some of the common ways that people can get locked out of their Workspace accounts. Number one is a business conflict, whether it's a rogue employee or maybe a business partner who's decided to leave the business. Sometimes business partners that are also life partners are going through a divorce of some sort, and someone decides to lock the other person out of the account because multiple people were set as administrators. Second case is accidental spamming or accidental violation of terms. Maybe one of your employees accidentally uploaded something to their Google Drive, which was against Google's terms of service, and they decide to lock down the account because of that. Maybe someone's computer is infected with spam and they've got into their Google account and started sending spam emails from your business domain name email address. That could also trigger a spam violation and then an account shutdown from Google's end as well. Now, the challenges with the Google shutdown is that pretty much your whole business is going to be offline. And the issue there is for a small business who relies on email and the ability to get access to your files in Google Drive for pretty much everything to do with your daily operations, that can be an absolute showstopper. So my recommendation is, if you're someone who wants to make sure that you are not put to any delay if your account is accidentally switched off, click on the link down below. There is an offer to get free access to Concierge just by switching your billing over to us. It doesn't cost you any extra, and you do get access to some discounts as well as a free account check and audit from our team. If you're interested in that, click on the link down below and look for the transfer in offer to transfer your billing to IT Genius and get access to a free version of our Concierge for you and your team. All right, great question. Let's go to our next one. Anonymous asks, I'm a small business and it's only me. I had to start a new brand before my first one even took off. How can I add the second brand email address to my account without paying for another license? I don't have any employees. Great question. If you've started a Google Workspace account and now you've decided that you want to switch to another brand, well, there's a pretty easy way of doing that. You need to add the secondary domain to your Google account in your admin panel. And let me show you how to do that. Now I'm inside my admin panel here, and this is accessible via admin.google.com. And I go to account and then domains and then manage domains. And that will show me all of the domains available for my account. Now, if you're just getting started, you'll probably have domain number 1, which will be your primary domain. And you need to add an additional domain to your account. Now you add your second domain, .com, and you want to add this as a secondary domain rather than a user alias domain. When you add a user alias domain, that's just for if you want to use a second domain name that still works for your existing staff, but you want everyone to keep the same mailbox that they have. That's probably not what we're looking for here. If you've got a business and you're launching a new brand, well, we want to create a secondary domain because we're going to switch into that secondary domain. So here we have the secondary domain. We go ahead and add the domain, go through the wizard and verify that domain to make sure that it's working. And then once we're back here, you can see we can click the Change Primary Domain button, and that will allow us to change a secondary domain into the primary domain. Now, I have a bit of a warning here. There are a number of risks to changing a primary domain. You can have interruption to your staff, and you can also have issues with sharing. You have some URLs change in some of the parts of things like Google Sites and some other areas of the account. So I'd be very careful about changing this by yourself unless you've comfortably read all of the help guides with all of the warnings of how this should be done. If you're a little bit scared of it, or you're not someone who is particularly tech savvy, or you just want some help to make sure that nothing goes wrong with you or your staff, my recommendation would be you chat to our team, click on the link below, have a free consultation, and our team will be able to walk you through the process of migrating domains. We help hundreds and hundreds of businesses change brands, domain names, merge, demerge, and migrate data between different Google Workspace accounts. And we'll be very happy to help you manage your rebrand or your domain name change inside your Workspace account. But if you're ready to pull the trigger yourself, or maybe you're a tiny business and you've just got one person, you can click the Change Domain. The changes are fairly minimal. And remember that you'll be signing in with your new domain name under your email address when you next go to sign in to your Google account. All right, great question there. That was a good one. All right, let me just go ahead and check my time here. I think we're doing okay for time. Yes, we are. What can you say about Google Tasks? Not robust enough compared to Asana. I kind of already covered that. Google Tasks is great. Google Tasks is great if you've got just 1, 2, or 3 people in the company. Apart from that, if you want to do any kind of projects, you need something else. Asana, something else. Okay, let me go next. And I'm going to bring these blinds down a little bit because it's still very bright. 1 second. I've got to make sure that I keep my team happy, otherwise their post-production is going to be a mess. Okay. If you're watching live, thanks so much for watching live, by the way. Please say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. We have India, we have the US, and we have Kenya. It's so awesome that we have people all over the world joining our stream. We've got customers in 15 countries now, which is pretty awesome. Quite a lot for our little Aussie business punching above its weight. And if you'd like me to answer a question for you live, you can just head straight to ask.itgenius.com and I will do my best to answer any live. Ask.itgenius.com. Drop a question in there and I'll do my best to answer live for you. Hey, Alexander, great to see you, mate. Welcome. We've spent most of the day together. Okie dokie. So let's go to my next question. Okay. Graham, another serial commenter. Graham asks, I have two businesses with two different domain names. They're in the same industry and they have a lot of things in common. I have G Suite configured for one of the business emails and linked it to the other domain. Now I want the other business email to be added too. How should I go about it? Okay, well, that's a great question, Graham. If you've got one account already configured inside of Google Workspace and you want to add a second one, all you need to do is add an additional domain. You've got two options with your domains when you go to add a domain name inside your business. And so to do that, you first go to the admin panel. And so let me open my admin panel here. You go to admin.google.com to account and then domains and then manage domains. And you've got the option to create multiple accounts here. When I click add domain, it's going to give me the option between a secondary domain and a user alias domain. And I think it explains them pretty well there. Secondary domain lets you have separate buckets of email using different email addresses and different email domains. And the primary one, user alias domain, well, that just lets you have an additional alias, and that is just going to create a copy for every one of those. And so anything that is put into the alias domain or anything that is sent to the alias domain is automatically going to be sent to your primary buckets of mail or your primary mailboxes. Now, we can see here that we have one mailbox here for Anne, and we're paying for Anne's mailbox here. We have one mailbox here for Joe. That's a separate user, separate bucket of email, separate cost. Here, we have two email addresses or two aliases, but only one bucket of email. So we're only paying for one license. Remember that when you are billing inside your Google Workspace, you only pay per license or per bucket of email. Once you have a single bucket of email, that's when you have to start paying for that. You can have multiple domain names, multiple email addresses going into one bucket. You only pay one license for that. So if you want to be savvy, if you've got multiple brands, if you've got multiple businesses, effectively just inside one bucket, you can put those there. Pretty cool. Okay, let's go to our next question. Great question. Okay. Can I comment on Google and HIPAA? What are the risks in using Google Workspace and how to ensure compliance? There's a lack of information and the majority of companies I know prefer non-cloud-based software or they develop their own for file sharing. Excellent question. I have to preface this video by saying this is not legal advice and I am not a lawyer, and so I can't give you official advice on your compliance needs for your business. You will need to do your own research and also have formal consultants help you to manage things. However, my experience of using the Google ecosystem is that there are a number of features to help with your compliance needs. Google have a guide on HIPAA compliance specifically, which will help businesses to ensure that correct privacy principles are followed if you are in the financial, legal services, or medical fields. Now, most of my experience has been working with Australian-based businesses in this field, but most of the privacy principles can pretty much be applied, whether you're in Europe and working with GDPR, if you're in the US and HIPAA compliance is important there. In Australia, we have what's called Australian Privacy Principles, and we also have another framework called Essential 8. Now, the way that we approach these when it comes to Google Workspace is that if you are a small business and you need help making sure that you are compliant, it probably makes sense to work with a consultant to help you get that done. And so you can work with IT Genius, or you can work with our sister company, Onsite HIPAA, if you're a large business. And either of our businesses will be able to help you with your compliance needs and enabling the correct features inside of Google Workspace. We have a long checklist that we use with customers that are either in legal, financial services, consulting, or the medical fields, and we can help to employ some of those compliance features to make sure that your account is locked down. For most businesses, that means upgrading to the enterprise license SKU, because the enterprise license SKU gives you the ability to set tools like DLP, or data loss prevention, which will automatically scan emails going out of your business and make sure that there's no personal information going out, like Medicare numbers or social security numbers, making sure if you're in financial services, nobody's credit card numbers are accidentally being stored in plain text. All of those little things that a normal business probably wouldn't have to worry about, but a business that has to meet compliance does need to worry about, because there's penalties if you don't. They can pretty much all be enabled inside the enterprise version of Workspace. And once some of those policies are enabled and the HIPAA compliance is switched on, it goes a long way to making sure that you are compliant. And you just, in most cases, need to show to your regulatory body or to the person who is auditing you what practices and measures you've put in place. Now, here's where I get into my personal opinion and a little bit outside of advice giving. And again, I've got to be very careful to say that I'm not a lawyer, but I'll give you my best opinion of this. My understanding is with these principles that you should make the best effort as an IT administrator or a business owner to protect the data of your users and also your customers as well. If there were to be a data breach, the light is going to be shone on you and people will start asking questions. What methods did you use to protect the data? What steps did you take to protect the data? What consultants did you engage to make sure that you had configured this application to best practice? And if all you can say is I went into the admin panel and I clicked whatever boxes I thought were appropriate, that's probably not going to be enough to help you to make sure that you are compliant and that you pass the audit or you escape jail time if there's been a data breach. So my strong recommendation is that you work with an expert to help you manage this. There are administrator guides for HIPAA compliance in the US that help you to configure Google Workspace for that, but they are many, many pages long. And our team have implemented this for many organizations. So it might be easier just to work with a consultant and have our team help you to get that done. Good luck with that. There are some other videos on my channel. If you search for the words medical or privacy or compliance, you'll find some of my other thoughts and some of the other strategies for how to implement different compliance levels within the business. And we also did just previously a 3-part series. If you check out the video on the Essential 8 security processes for Australian businesses. This can potentially be applied more broadly as well. It's a very useful framework for the basics of thinking about different levels of security and how to manage them across your business. So I'd recommend you check out those videos. If you search for the words Essential and the number 8 on our channel, you'll be able to find that series. Cool, great question. All right. Sorry guys, that was the wrong button. I'm not done yet. Okay. The Legend 27, thanks for being on the live stream, asks, are Google certificates worth it? I mean, if you want a job being a Google consultant, yep. I don't know if you're talking specifically about Google Workspace or Google's more broad Google Cloud. But our team all go through the certification process for Google Workspace. And from what I hear from them, it's very worthwhile. I know that they're pretty tough to get certified. I did one of them many years ago. And so, yeah, if you're interested in being a Google Workspace expert, then yeah, sure, go ahead. If you're an IT manager and you've got Workspace to manage as well as AWS and desktop support and a million other things, my recommendation would be to work with one of our consultancies, either IT Genius or Onsite HIPAA, depending on the size of your business. And my recommendation there would really be to offload as many of your tasks as possible to our team, because that's going to save you time rather than you having to do everything yourself. Okay, let's have a look at our next question. Paul asks, my account was disabled because it was disabled. Okay, so I paid and got back However, I lost all my saved emails. How do I recover it? I'm not able to see emails in my inbox, only in my all mailbox, but I'm still not getting emails. That's very interesting. Okay. If you have a Google account and it's been suspended, or for whatever reason it was switched off for a period of time, and you were not receiving emails because the account was disabled, it's very likely that anyone who tried to send you an email during that time would have received a bounce back. If an account is switched off or suspended, a bounce back will typically be sent. And what that means is when you switch the account back on, unfortunately, it's unlikely that you'll receive any of those emails that were sent to you during that time. However, you can have some solace in the fact that people would have received a bounce back. Okay, cool. People receive a bounce back. Then what? Well, it's their responsibility to actually send the email to you again. Now, if you have broken something in your DNS settings and there is a chance that your emails were down for a period of time, but your account was still active, most people who send an email will have an automatic server that attempts to redeliver that email for 24 or 48 hours, or sometimes even longer. And if that happens to you, your emails were down for a period of time because of DNS, well, sometimes those emails will be redelivered. So if your account was offline, it's really not too much of a concern if your account was still active, because even if you broke your DNS, it can still redeliver those emails. However, if your account was suspended, it's most likely someone's going to receive a bounce back and they're not going to get the emails again. So if your account was disabled by Google for some reason, then yeah, you're pretty much stuck. If it was disabled by Google and then recovered and your emails aren't sitting in your inbox and your history isn't sitting in your inbox, I would question how long it was disabled for. It's possible that they just aren't going to come back. But that's an important reason that you may consider a backup for your Google account. We have a third-party backup tool that we sell to small businesses. You get a couple of free licenses as a part of Concierge. And once you sign up to Concierge, our team will automatically set up a backup for your Google account. Now, it's very unlikely that Google would ever lose your data in your account. However, it is likely that one of your team accidentally deletes something. It is likely that, I don't know, maybe you accidentally forget to pay your credit card and your account gets shut down. From time to time, data loss does happen. Sometimes there's even malicious damage from an employee. And when that does happen, well, you can run into issues. And so my recommendation would be is to have a third-party backup for your account. What that will do is keep it safe and protected. Good question, though. Okay. I have everything on and everything looks good, but my Google Workspace admin cannot receive emails. If you're not receiving emails, I've got a great video on emails not being received. You can find that on the channel. If you search for emails stopped on the IT Genius channel, you will find that. How do I retire my Google Workspace emails? Okay, we already covered offboarding, so I'll mark that one off. My Google is out of space. My emails have stopped coming in, and I'm unable to upgrade. Oh, that's interesting. Probably not much we can do about that one. I manage an org that has 5 users. I have admin access to adjust settings for users. How can I give one user the majority of the Google Drive space available? It's currently limited to 30 gigabytes and the other 4 users do not need that much space. I want to give one user about 125 gigabytes and the others what's left. That's an excellent question because I read this on some forums and I haven't actually checked it myself. I believe there might be a policy for storage, but I've got a feeling it might be for education domains only. But let's go ahead and have a look at our policies and see if we can find it. Now, something that's very important for you to understand is when you're going into creating policies inside Google Workspace, most of those are just going to be inside your admin panel. So you head along to admin.google.com. That's going to open up your admin panel. Let's have a look at our Drive policies and see if we can find a policy around storage. So to do that, I would search either for Drive. That's going to bring up all of my Drive settings. But let me maybe see if we can find storage or maybe even quota. See if anything like that comes up. No, it doesn't look like it. That's okay. Let's go into our Drive settings and see if we can set a setting here. So when we're setting a policy, on the left-hand side, we can apply policies to certain areas of the business or certain organizational units, as they're called. And those organizational units can have different policies applied to each of them. So you can see here we can apply policies to executive, to service accounts, to our track team, to our concierge team, and that allows us to create different policies for different people inside the business. All right, let's go ahead and have a look at our options here for Drive. I can't seem to see a particular storage limit here. Okay, so that looks like we probably don't have any option there. Let's try storage. Storage features. So we have a lot of shared storage here. Storage settings, manage all storage limits policies. Oh, look at that. It looks like they've created some policies here in storage. Wonderful. Okay, so inside the storage menu, which must be a brand new menu since they changed their accounts, we can set a storage limit for the user or a storage limit just for shared drives. So if I use the user storage limit, I can switch that on and select a particular storage unit per user. And because I have the ability to set this limit to different organizational units, I can set different limits for different staff. So you may, for example, want to set a certain limit for executives and a certain limit for non-executive staff. You might have a certain group of contractors that you want to have less available. Lots of different options for who you apply that to based on the organizational units. Now, the cool thing about organizational units is they actually cascade. So if you set one policy at the top level, it's automatically going to apply to all of the sub levels. But if you wanted to have one policy for the whole company, and let's say you've got some outliers, like maybe the executive group, well, then you can set it at the executive group, and you can see that right here, it currently says that it inherits the settings. Well, when I choose to change this policy, it will no longer inherit the limits. You'll see here that when I go ahead and set the policy, the button here, oops, I actually need to choose that. The button here is to override, and that is no longer going to inherit the policy. It's going to override it at the sub level. That's all I have time for, folks. Thanks so much for joining. Wonderful if you're here with me on the live. If you're watching the replay as well, thank you so much for joining. You can give me any questions that you have at ask.itgenius.com. Make sure you leave the name there so I can give you a shout out when you ask your question, and I will answer them in an upcoming video. It's been wonderful to spend time with you again, and look forward to sharing more soon. Okay, see you later, guys. Take care.